Hey, everyone. Welcome to Locked On Lakers for Wednesday. Brian Kamenetsky, Andy Kamenetsky. The Lakers are in the tournament. Wasn't pretty how they got there, but the Lakers have clinched a spot in the top 10. They'll at least be a play-in team and still have more to play for. That's next.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks to everyone for making Locked On Lakers first listen of every day, Monday through Friday, no matter how or where you get your podcasts. It's always free. It's never going to be behind a paywall. And Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show and hang out with a community of Lakers fans that is well over 14,000 strong. Comment on the game, comment on the show, ask us questions, participate. We love to take those things and use them. In the show, I want to let people know that today's episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Give online therapy a try at betterhelp.com/lockedonnba and get on your way to being your best self. So plenty to unpack from Tuesday night's win in Utah, 135-133 in overtime. A distressingly thrilling game in all ways, I think, for the Lakers. Certainly a missed opportunity to at the very least get out of there without having to play overtime. But before we get too deep into that, it is worth pointing out that the Lakers, with that win, have clinched a spot in the top 10. So they are in the tournament in one way or another. They're not yet in the big boy playoffs, but they're in there somewhere. And given where we have been over the course of this season, Andy, it is worth, before we get to the style points issue and the Clippers game and all the other stuff that's still left to play for in these last three games, it is worth noting they're in. And that in and of itself is impressive.
Yeah, it really is when you consider everything they went through and where they are right now, how it, as the kids would say, how it started, how it's going. Mm-hmm. They are now guaranteed to finish no worse than a 500 record. And think about that for a second. Since we've spent how much of this year talking about how they had not been 500 at any point in the season at all? Like, it wasn't even until a few weeks ago, or no, not even a few weeks ago, maybe a few games ago, where they had hit 500.
And then the first time they did it, they instantly lost. They lost the next game.
They are now, Brian, 3 games above 500, and it is the first time they have been 3 games above 500 since December 15th, 2021. Do you know which game that was, by the way? It's a big game of that
December
season.
15th, 2021. I do not remember that one. No, I'm not LeBron.
Austin Reeves game winner against Dallas in overtime.
Oh, nice. That's the Hillbilly Kobe game. That's the day Hillbilly Kobe arrived.
Hillbilly Kobe was born in that game. And I'm telling you right now, because
that was the day he became president.
Yes, it was. And I'll tell you right now, to find the next time the Lakers were 4 games above 500, you're looking at a team with Marc Gasol, Andre Drummond, Montrezl Harrell, and Dennis Schroeder 1.0. Like, Alfonso McKinney was a young man of promise the last time the Lakers were 4 games above 500. Like, players were still getting regularly COVID tested, which, as you may recall, was a problem for Dennis Schroeder 1.0. That's how far back we need to go for the Lakers.
At least Alfonso McKinney was alive. I was worried you were going to say, like, Alfonso McKinney wasn't even a glint in his parents' eyes the last time the Lakers were 4 games over 500. But, like, and so if you look at the standings, the Lakers didn't get, it looked like Oklahoma City was actually going to help out the Lakers a little bit on Tuesday. They were ahead in Golden State, up in San Francisco. They were ahead for a while in that game, but Golden State comes back and wins that one. So the Lakers remain tied with the Clippers going into tonight's game, which we will obviously talk about because so much of what happened on Tuesday is going to impact likely what happens on Wednesday. The Warriors now 42-38. They are a half game ahead of the Lakers. The Lakers have the tiebreaker on Golden State, so number 5 still in play. just to give you an idea of how much things have changed, both in terms of perception and in terms of reality. The Lakers now 16-7, I believe, since the deadline.
Yeah.
That's despite LeBron missing 13 games. They are undefeated, and this was not one of those games, by the way, but they are undefeated when LeBron, AD, and Russell all play. So there's that. And all of those things. You know where they are in Mark Stein's power rankings for the weekend? As we all know, Andy, there's very little that matters more in the NBA than a good power ranking. And I don't mean, but like, where are they now? You want to guess?
11th.
This is before Tuesday's win. 11, you said? Very close. Yeah. They're 12th. I mean, and again, is 12th like the greatest? No, but they were in late February. They were 17 in the Stein rankings, and Stein, who's hardly a hot take, fireballing flamethrower. And I guarantee you, the one that they did at the beginning of February, they were not 17th either. They were lower than that.
They were the equivalent of we're going to throw them under the jail. That's right. Where they were.
It was an unpower ranking. And so, they are trending in a way that they are absolutely 100%. And Stein even mentions this in his little write-up. They are 100% the trendy team now of like, you don't want to play them. And like, hey, sneaky, I think they're going to they could win the conference. And I'm not at the second part of that statement yet, but I'm certainly at the first. I don't think there's any team in the Western Conference that would welcome this group. I don't think teams want to play Golden State either, as another one of these sort of, for examples. But I'm not saying they're going to win the West, but I think in any individual series, the Lakers, assuming they're all healthy, are really freaking scary because of the way LeBron, AD, and Russell have looked like they play together.
See, I disagree with that. I don't think the Lakers are scary at this point, but I would also say I don't think any team in the West is necessarily scary. I think they're all so vulnerable in different ways that the thought of playing any of them isn't necessarily scary. But what I would say about the Lakers and wouldn't say about some other teams in the West, including ones that are going to finish higher than the Lakers, I think the thought of playing them is unpleasant. Mm-hmm. I think it's a very unpleasant thought right now to go up against this team, tonight's game notwithstanding. The thought of going up against this roster that makes a lot of sense with LeBron and AD and D'Angelo Russell presumably in good health, it's unpleasant. You don't want to deal with it, even if you're not, bleeping your pants along the way.
Yeah, and it's funny, like, the Western Conference playoffs are starting to kind of shape. The conference has been so bad for so long throughout the year. And it's starting to get kind of interesting again in terms of like, don't look now, but the Warriors are looking a little bit more, at least at home, like, the Steph, Clay, Draymond Warriors, and, the Pelicans, after looking like they were going to fall completely off the map, have really turned it around. They've won 7 of 10, although they lost Tuesday in a way that really helped out the Lakers in terms of Wednesday's game against the Clippers, which we'll get to. But the Pelicans losing that one is very significant for the Lakers. If the Clippers are healthy, if Paul George is back and playing, Paul George and Kawhi, the Suns have won 6 in a row, and like it could be an entertaining playoff again. But let's get into what happened on Tuesday. Now that we're done celebrating, because what happened on Tuesday is going to have a massive influence potentially on what happens on Wednesday, this huge game between the Lakers and Clippers. And so we'll get there next.
Locked on Lakers is brought to you by eBay Motors. And for a championship team, it is all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. No, seriously, it really is about making sure every player is a perfect fit. Just ask the Lakers. It's the same thing when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to be fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay's guaranteed fit, you can make sure every part you need fits right. Just add your ride to My Garage and then look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. And just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop on eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, I didn't even realize there were 122 million parts, period, that existed. You will be back in the game in no time. And after
It's
all,
a lot of parts.
It really is a lot of parts. It's easy.
Tremendous amount of parts.
It's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. So get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices.
Like all for cars?
Yeah, all for cars on ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. Eligible items only. Apparently, that's all of them. Exclusions apply.
All right. So, like, you look at this game, Andy, on Tuesday, and to their credit, you can, we're going to have plenty of conversations about the Jazz here and like how much credit you want to give them. They have not quit on the season in terms of how hard the players play, how hard the coaches coach. They've been a relatively disciplined team all year. It's one of the advantages of actually being competitive is like you build good habits as a group, all that stuff. That said, the Lakers, after kind of a back and forth first quarter, the Lakers looked like they were sort of gaining control of going into the half. They were up by 10 at the half. They build that lead out to 14 early in the third. So, okay, 14-point lead on a Utah team that is at the very least thin on talent. That's point one, where you look at it and you say, I wish, really looking forward to the Lakers pulling away here. The second
thin on talent is a generous way of phrasing this, but go on.
Fair. The second point is with a minute 43 left. This is the really egregious.
Nobody who will ever make an all-star team.
I don't know. Kelly Olynyk. I mean, he's just a solid guy. All-star adjacent. Kelly Olynyk.
Dirty white boy. Go on.
Yeah, good at ripping people's arms off. Revenge game for Damian Jones. Revenge game for Talen Horton-Tucker. There's a lot of anger in that. Juan Toscano-Anderson. Lakers up 124 to 114 with a minute 43. This is the one where it gets really egregious, where you start to think of, in terms of controlling an NBA game, because they often, even good teams against bad teams, are tight in the fourth quarter. Statistically speaking, the last 5 minutes, teams are separated by 4 or 5, whatever that stat is. It's like 70% of the games. You should not go into overtime when you're up by 10 with a minute 43. And,
no, you shouldn't.
That to me was the part of the game where you go, we're really playing with fire here and wasting effort and energy that ought not be wasted.
I'm just going to be honest. I thought the Lakers were completely sloppy and unfocused in this game. It's a big difference between, like, we talked about the win over Houston. Neither one of us thought that they treated that game with a heightened sense of urgency, which is fine because they were playing a lousy team, but they were disciplined and methodical about not being particularly urgent. They treated the game with professionalism. I don't think they treated this game with a whole lot of professionalism. I think Utah, in this current state where a really wild Talen Horton-Tucker is probably your best player. He's certainly your go-to guy and the guy controlling most of the action. And other than a pretty good third quarter, he played this game like it was a revenge game against the Lakers for trading him, and also a revenge game against Utah for trading for him. I mean, he was frankly awful for a lot of this game. And had he played more controlled, Utah maybe could have won the thing outright in regulation because of all this other stuff the Lakers were doing. I think they are as dangerous a team as you allow them to be. And if you create an opening for them, they are capable of, asking you where the opening is located and then I guess walking through it. They are not in any way capable of creating an opening for themselves.
I think that's fair.
And the Lakers spent most of this game just saying, there's the opening. Do what you like to do.
I would push back a little bit on that because I actually think for the first half, especially, I thought, it actually reminded me very much of the Houston game, where it was like, okay, we're sort of professional, low turnovers. They did a good job with that, and they weren't just throwing the ball all over the arena. They were, they weren't
LeBron
shooting
was,
well.
to be honest. I thought a lot of the casualness, to be perfectly honest, was related to LeBron. He had an overtime that was very helpful, but I thought he spent a lot of the game kind of settling, kind of not playing particularly urgently. He had some threes that were, to put it generously, settled.
Yeah, no, I think what a lot of what he's doing in games like this is trying to, in games where I think he believes the Lakers have the wiggle to win, is trying to, because the outside shooting has been really bad since he came. It's been, it was bad at the beginning of the year. It kind of seemed to get it going, and then since the injury has just not shot the ball well from the perimeter.
No.
I think he's trying to fix that. And so he sees games like this as an opportunity to do that. I'm not condoning or whatever, but I think that's a lot of what's going on, is like, I need the reps to try to take some of these shots and get that rhythm back. So I that's my take on a lot of that. But I thought in the first half, they were up by 10. You go into the halftime, you're up by 10. You're not playing a perfect game, but you're not shooting well at that point either. So, a couple threes go in for you, and you probably feel pretty good about where. I thought the third quarter was, after they got up by 14, obviously, they started to maybe lose a little bit of focus there. And then Utah made them focus in the fourth. They get up by 10 again. And offensively, they just could not, they couldn't get themselves a bucket. They couldn't get a good, clean look. LeBron, as he said at the end of the game, smoked the layup that would have won it in regulation, a shot that he absolutely should have made, that he said. And it became missed opportunities. And like you said, Utah, whether, my basic point with them isn't that they're good, because they're not, but they're not bad in the same way that, like you said, if you open a door, if you give them an opening, Utah could play their way through it. San Antonio can't. Houston can't. There are teams that are really bad that will be like, no, thank you. I don't want to go through your door. Utah will keep playing. When you look at tonight's game, though, the big question from it is whether or not the effort that was put out on Tuesday is going to cost them on Wednesday, not just in, energy back to back, but like in literally who's available. Darvin was non-committal as to who's going to play. LeBron was non-committal as to whether or not he was going to play. And so, he's got to get
AD was also
out of bed.
AD was also non-committal as well.
Right. Because in theory, and I was going to say, in theory, it's a decision that in theory has already been made, because so many of these things have been planned out, but maybe not, because they've been so vague. I mean, yeah. And, Chris Haynes in the report, we talked about this for yesterday's show, like Chris Haynes in the report that like maybe he could play the both sides of the back-to-back this time. I don't know if the overtime changes that or not. I don't know if the difference between 37 and 32 is what would have determined it or not, but it still would have been better to get these guys off the floor.
Well, 37 for 32 for LeBron with AD. It was 40.
I'm making up numbers.
Okay, well,
I'm just saying the extra 5 minutes, not playing the extra 5 minutes.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's why in part though this game was so frustrating for me, because I feel like the Lakers, when they are playing focused and methodical and disciplined, are good enough that and so much better, even without D'Angelo Russell, who I don't remember if we noted or not, D'Angelo Russell did not play in this game.
Downgraded on Tuesday morning, basically.
Yeah, he was downgraded from probable to questionable, which is never a good sign with that foot issue that kept him out of the second half against, who do they play on Sunday? I'm blanking now.
Was that Houston?
Houston, yes, thank you. The Lakers are good enough, even without D'Lo, that they at least theoretically, and I think it's a good theoretical, should have had an opportunity to put themselves in a position where it's feasible that LeBron and AD could sit for the last 7 or 8 minutes of this game, and the Lakers could just control it. And I don't know if those 7 or 8 minutes would make the difference between LeBron and or AD playing in this game, because as AD pointed out, it has nothing to do with the standings, this decision. It's purely physical. How does the foot feel the next day? He has said before that it's needed 24 hours to prevent a regression. LeBron this is still a fluid situation with him as well. I can just promise, though, those extra 7 or 8 minutes don't help.
And even beyond that, they're not the only guys on the floor. Austin Reeves has to work hard. Austin Reeves, by the way, is going to be just like, he's going to need an ice bath, and in the ice bath needs to be like Advil. Like he's going to be. I mean, even by Austin Reeves standards, like he was being, hit and pounded on, and I mean I felt terrible for the guy. It was like watching a Rocky fight. Rocky just takes abuse the whole time. But he's on the floor. Other guys are playing, and Utah is, I don't know what the weather's like there, but it can be hard to get out of there. And
it's
you get
cold as
late.
hell. They were talking. Darvin Ham was talking afterwards about being worried that they won't be in LA in time because they're snowed in.
You're always better off in the front end of the back-to-back to get everybody off the floor, have an easier game, even if Anthony Davis still couldn't play on Wednesday. And to that point, Andy, let's discuss it, because whether it's media I've seen a little bit of, certainly among Lakers fans, I've seen some of it, with the stakes of this game. The Lakers, if they win this game, are moving into the top 6, potentially deep into it. There is some talk I've seen, at least on social media, on Twitter, about like, no, you go play these games. Whether you're Anthony Davis, whether you're LeBron James, it's like, it's time to go play. D'Angelo Russell, time to go play. This game's too important. So let's talk about that next.
Locked On Lakers is brought to you by FanDuel and the NBA playoffs. As we've been discussing, they are around the corner, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And new customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. Bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, really easy to use, and you can bet on everything from the money line to the point scores, or you can get saucy with a little exclusive bet like the 2x3, 2 3-pointers scored in the first 3 minutes. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same-game parlay. So do not miss out on the chance for your no-sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/lockedon. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon to learn more. Locked On in all caps. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA.
So the implications for this game tonight, Andy, couldn't be any bigger. The Lakers and Clippers are tied in the standings. It is the 6-7 spot that they are currently tied over. The difference between 6 and 7 is huge. 6, you're in. You don't have to risk a play-in. You don't have to mess with any of that stuff. You are definitionally going to avoid Denver in the first round. You're staying right now, at least out of the Phoenix side of the bracket, as a 6 seed as opposed to a 7. There's a lot of perks to being there. And to that point, I've seen some people say, look, if Anthony Davis is feeling good, he should play. If LeBron is feeling okay, there's not a ton of pain or pain he can work through, he should play. You have an opportunity to get yourself into the top 6. If you avoid the play, and you get about 5 or 6 days off while everybody else goes through that Michigas. Do you agree with that assessment?
It depends on what you are concerned about that would keep you from not playing in the first place. If it's an element of pain management or even future pain management, then I do think there can be some degree of, no, really, this game is damn important, assuming you are not going to end up in such excruciating pain that you're not going to be able to play either the final 2 games, or this could become something really problematic.
Or it's just for whatever reason painful that you can't function in the game you're playing. I think you should try to get out there. If it is simply a matter of pain management during the game or possibly afterwards within reason, I think, you should look to get out there. If, however, the issue is
you could actually regress in the recovery. And both LeBron and AD, it should be noted, are still in the recovery stages of their respective injuries, even while playing through them. This is the way it's been described by the team, even with all the opaque, cagey ways they've discussed this. They've made that pretty clear. It's also been made pretty clear by LeBron and AD. If you can potentially make this thing worse, where medically you are forced to take a step or two backwards, then no, you don't. I don't care what the stakes of this game are, because the whole point of going through this hell to get yourself where they are right now is to actually try to do something in the playoffs, which I can promise you ain't going to happen without LeBron and AD as healthy as they can possibly be.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this is where the transparency issue, especially around AD. Look, LeBron's thing is everybody kind of understands LeBron is managing this himself. Like LeBron and his physical therapy team and his trainers are presumably in consultation with the Lakers, but like he's in charge of that. But he came back and he's played fine.
There's an element, by the way, of that too with AD. Like he's got his own guy as well. Like, and it's not.
And there's a plan, and there's all kinds of stuff.
Right, and by the way, this is increasingly common across the league with superstar players. They have their own guys who are in consultation with the Lakers medical team, which, quite frankly, can sometimes end up a real pain in the ass for the team to be trying to manage, because you got a lot of chefs in that kitchen. But nonetheless, there's more than one set of chefs for both LeBron and AD.
So, we got to remember LeBron came back faster than by a lot anybody expected he would. Anybody would reasonably believe that he could. That is not a healed, like you say, injury. That thing's still live.
LeBron has made it clear off-season surgery might happen. Yes. Frankly,
won't tell us, point, but it could happen.
Oh, well, he's already intimated that it may happen. Like when asked about the possibility of it, he didn't shoot it down. He just said, if it happens, you guys won't know when I do it. You'll just hear about it next media day in late 2023 when I let you know that I had surgery.
Exactly.
And AD is clearly not out of the woods with that possibility either.
So, you look at that, and then you look at Davis, who has been on this, predetermined plan. Like we talked for Tuesday's show. Like I can't imagine that they would have gone this far and then would get loose with whatever the plan has been. So, I mean, this is, I think, where it's sort of frustrating for Lakers fans. And I think why we both suppose that, if he was probable for Tuesday's game and they were non-committal about whether or not he'd play on Wednesday, it's not the first time this question has come up, that it meant that he actually might be cleared for this back-to-back. Because this is another one of those situations where if he's not, although I guess by now people are a little bit more used to the routine since he's missed the back end twice now, given the stakes of this game, I think would have been better for AD if it was already determined that, like, look, he's not going to play, to just say he's not going to play. Maybe there's some wiggle room here. Maybe they do need to see how sore is he? Where is he sore? Is he sore in his lower extremities? Is he sore on that leg versus that leg? That stuff that you just don't know about until you wake up. Maybe there is some wiggle room where you can say, okay, he actually could do this unless, and you got to wait. And I totally understand that. Anthony Davis wants to play on Wednesday. I mean, the notion that AD is somehow doesn't want to go out there. The Lakers want Anthony Davis to play on Wednesday. Everybody wants to win the game on Wednesday, but like you say, you can't approach it, whether you're talking about D'Lo too. You can't, you finally got into the thing. You're in the top 10. You can't screw it up now. Like, okay, fine. You maybe not get all the way to the top 6, which was, I guess, the goal. You still could, by the way, even if you lose on Wednesday, but it's harder. Okay, so you don't get the best possible result that you might need to run the table to see. Well, okay, if you had to win the last 8 games to get where you wanted to go, you probably weren't in a great position to get there anyway.
Well, I think it's important to remember too with AD, because unless something has drastically changed after playing 42 minutes in this game, they've all been maintaining that it's not a pain issue to begin with. With AD,
Correct.
it is purely a medical thing. LeBron, I think, may be more of a combination of pain tolerance and medical thing. And D'Lo, it's hard to know because they have not given a ton of details with what's going on with him, but it does seem like pain is acting up, which, you know, may be signaling something worse. I don't know how much of this is worried about it becoming something worse versus worried about the discomfort becoming too uncomfortable to play
Right.
through.
Maybe an injury lingers and now he's got, real pain problems for 3 games and 5 games, whatever it is.
Right. It's difficult to say, but you have to be smart about this. Smart often means practical. Practical by definition is not inspiring. And I think everybody wants to see the most inspiring version of all of this, because we've already seen a lot of inspiring leading us to this point where the Lakers have, against a lot of odds, fighting uphill, have managed to turn this thing around. You want to keep that train going. But again, it's a long ride, hopefully, on that train. You don't want to derail it now.
And so, either way, we'll see. It's kind of a shame that so much of the lead up into this massively important game has now been taken up over the questions of who's going to play and the disappointment of at the very least minimizing the opportunity to make sure everybody, to whatever degree the opportunity was there for everyone to be able to play. The Lakers did not take advantage of that.
No, they did not.
And so they didn't maximize that opportunity. But it is worth noting the Clippers are vulnerable. They are not playing well. Paul George is hurt. They have, changed the rotation around. They dropped Marcus Morris from it. They've added Robert Covington back in. Like, they're doing stuff. I think Nick Batum is back in the starting lineup. Like, they're trying to tweak and recalibrate and do all kinds of things, and they are not playing well. They've lost 2 in a row. They're 5-5 in their last 10. It's a winnable game. And
they've lost 4 of the last 7 they've played.
Yeah. So see what happens. I mean, even if you get 1 of LeBron or 2 of 3 of LeBron, AD, and Russell, I'm not writing this game off.
Nope. Me neither.
No, not in the slightest. Locked On Lakers on YouTube is where you can go to see the show. We will be back, obviously, after Wednesday's game to break it all down. Hopefully, a Lakers victory in what is technically the final game of a 5-game road trip, the get back road trip. And we'll see how it goes. See everybody then.